As the leader of the Booner Pad, I lead from the front.
All right, boys. Lock in.
It's our core foundation, man. Grit.
I'm fired up. I'm fired the up, boys.
It's pumping right now. It's got my juice pumping, boys.
Ladies and gentlemen, Saturday mornings with Crunch Time Sports. Quick turnaround here. Tigers ended at about 2 in the morning. We're live here at 9 a.m. Man, I'm just going to say this right off the bat. First off, thank you to everyone who, I didn't get to say this at the end of the stream because I was speechless at the end of that game, but I just want to thank everyone who tuned into the watch party yesterday. It was a lot of fun, and, it was a roller coaster, but just not the outcome that we wanted as Tigers fans. As always, I'm your host, Caleb Czarnik. This is Saturday mornings with Crunch Time Sports. We're going to have Flannel Sam joining us at about 9:15 to talk, obviously, the Tigers. Nobody, shout out right off the bat, nobody, man. You're the man. Nobody, we battled, we fought, we just didn't have enough. Well, yeah, we're going to get into all that right now. Before we get into the game, I just want to say this right off the bat, man. I had fun this season. I had fun watching this team. I mean, they were really, really good until, July, August. They were really good. And everything just kind of all fell apart at once. And, the parts of this team, not scoring with RISP and the lack of clutch hitting and honestly the lack of hitting with power, all this stuff lost you this ALDS Game 5 matchup. So going into this game, starting from the beginning, Tarik Skubal did what he does every time he toes the rubber. I mean, just pure dominance. He was outstanding. I mean, this was A+ Skubal. We saw, I think that this was a redemption game for him. Last year in Game 5 of the ALDS in Cleveland, gave up 5 runs or 4 runs, whatever it was, gave up that grand slam. We lost the game. And he wanted to toe that rubber again in a elimination scenario. And he did, and he was excellent. He proved that he is still the best pitcher on planet Earth and that he is going to demand that $500 million or so. 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned, 13 strikeouts for Tarik Skubal. That is phenomenal stuff. That is phenomenal. And let me say this, man. He got most of his outs and most of his strikeouts from that fastball changeup, really without using the slider. And fastball changeup, that was kind of his bread and butter this entire season, but that slider wasn't working. So he was almost kind of like a 2-pitch pitcher yesterday, which just shows how good he is, that he's going to get major league hitters out with just 2 pitches. Sorry, I need some coffee here. I mean, not only am I'm just exhausted mentally. I think everybody is here after that game yesterday, but yeah, Skubal was phenomenal. And I know he said after the game that he's not going to talk to the front office about his future. Well, Chris Ilitch, I know we've said this a million times before on the show. Chris Ilitch should approach him and say, "Hey, man, I want you to be a Tiger for life. Here's $700 quadrillion." But I'm just not sure that's going to happen. One of the big things that everybody's talking about is after Skubal's dominant performance, he has the opportunity to go into the 7th inning with 99 pitches. And AJ Hinch pulls him for Kyle Finnegan. Goes to his bullpen too early, and I don't think that's even an argument. I get AJ Hinch. He always has short leashes for his starters. He wants to keep them fresh. But this was an elimination game, and you have your ace on the mound. You don't take Tarik Skubal out with the way he's pitching. You don't take him out at 99 pitches. You don't. And that Will Vest is going to give you 2 good innings. You know that with the way he's been throwing in this postseason. So you leave Skubal out there for the 7th, and Will Vest pitches the 8th and 9th. And dare I say, we probably win that baseball game. Because, I mean, look, Kyle Finnegan has been good for us. The only good acquisition we made at this trade deadline was Kyle Finnegan. And I wanted to, when Flannel comes on, I do want to talk about the trade deadline a little bit. I'm going to bitch about that for eternity. Yeah, Finnegan gives up the run. You know, I think he left runners on 2nd and 3rd or something like that. Holton comes in and gives up a hit. Mariners tie the ball game. And Skubal can do nothing but sit there on the bench wondering why he's still not on the field. Big mistake by AJ Hinch. Huge mistake. To the rest of the pitching, hats off. Because outside of, you know, Holton and Finnegan and Canley, which is weird that I say instead of 3 pitchers, we had like 8 pitchers go. I mean, this was a 15-inning game. Will Vest, Troy Melton, Kyder Montero, and Jack Flaherty were phenomenal yesterday. They were phenomenal. And these guys have been criticized down the stretch because they weren't throwing well. This bullpen, we couldn't rely on them. Man, they were great. This was as high leverage as it gets. And this pitching was phenomenal. But, as we've said many times before, and I feel like a broken record talking about this, Tigers, middle of the order, or just the offense in general, outside of Kerry Carpenter, couldn't get it done for you. 2 through 5 in the Tigers order, which is Gleyber, Riley, Torque, and Colt Keith, were combined 0 for 23 with, let me see if I got my math right, 10 strikeouts, including 4 from Spencer Torkelson and 3 from Colt Keith, 2 from Gleyber, 1 from Riley Green. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. And I'm looking at this 2 through 5. That cannot, and I do believe that Gleyber Torres played his last game as a Detroit Tiger last night, but that cannot, under any circumstance, be your middle of the order next year. I look at a guy like Riley Green. I think he's slotted for a spot in there. Yeah, he struck out 200 times. Yeah, he struggled with runners in scoring position. But he's a 24-year-old that just hit 36 homers and 100-something RBIs. I think he's only going to get better, and that clutch gene might find him somehow. And he might have a little less swing and miss in that bat. But I'm looking at guys like Torque and Colt. Man, oh man, did Torque have outside of two hits? He had himself a brutal postseason. Brutal. I mean, just hearing 0 for 23 with 10 strikeouts from the middle of the order leaves you speechless. And another guy I want to bring up who shouldn't have been in the lineup yesterday. And I think all of us can agree. I mean, this is a player that I, going into the year, sorry if you could hear that, there's a train in the background, but this was my breakout player for 2025. It was Parker Meadows. And golly, was he terrible at the plate. Was he awful? He gave you nothing offensively. Nothing. The only good thing he has done in the past however many games was drop that bunt down last game. He was brutal. Center field, unless somehow, which won't happen, Max Clark is in the major leagues next year. It won't happen. But unless, he has, I don't even know how that's even a scenario that Max Clark comes up next year. But center field is now a position of need for this team because Parker Meadows is just not an everyday MLB player. And I know he dealt with injuries, but man, he had a lot of at-bats this year. And he was just a nothing the entire year for the Tigers. Just brutal. Brutal Game 5 loss. 15 innings, man. That is the most heartbreaking way to lose, really, because you have every opportunity to win that baseball game. Every opportunity. And there was a point I was thinking to myself, I was like, can the pitchers score a run for us or something? Because I know once we get, to the top of the innings, the offense is going to do nothing. And they threatened a few times and just couldn't get anything going. Let's see what you guys have to say in the chat. Greg, shout out in the chat. Ride your best pitcher, AJ. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand taking Skubal out with 99 pitches. Elimination game, he knew there was a possibility this was the last time Skubal was going to pitch this year. And he takes him out 99 pitches, brings in Finnegan in the 7th. Gives up the run. Tribe, shout out for tuning in. Slimeball cheater. AJ didn't have the trash cans to help him this time. All right. What are we doing? Drake Miller, 0 for 28 for the middle of the order after Carp gets on base 6 times. Like I said, that leaves you speechless, man. 0 for 23, 10 strikeouts from 2 through 5 in your order. Now, that's difficult to do, man. In a 15-inning game, you can't string together a couple hits. And look, that was and I said that was the issue with this ball club for the past few months. They just couldn't string together hits and form rallies. They couldn't. And that usually starts in the middle of your order. And when you're getting nothing, when you're getting 4 strikeouts out of Spencer Torkelson and some of the worst at bats I've seen in a long time, you're not going to be successful as an offense. You're just not. Colt Keith 0 for 6, 3 strikeouts. Riley Green 0 for 6, 1K. Gleyber Torres 0 for 6, 2 strikeouts. Gleyber Torres comes out after the game and says he was playing with a hernia injury, I believe it was. He'll have surgery on that in the offseason. He was playing through that for I don't know how long. But, man, if you're the Tigers, I don't even know if that matters because I think we just saw the last game from Gleyber Torres in a Detroit Tigers uniform. What did we say it in the chat? Bam says, I'm here for Flannel. Shout out, Bam. And we got Flannel Sam here with us right now to talk some Tigers. Flannel, it's great to be talking to you, man. Look, I wish it was under better circumstance. I wish we were celebrating a victory Saturday and we were able to preview an ALCS series, but instead Tigers lose in 15 innings, 3-2. I mean, what did you make of that game last night, Flannel?
Well, sometimes I just wish I didn't like sports. I know we've all been through that, and I think we're all feeling that right now. And shout out to the people who are joining us. If you're still sleeping or if you still haven't slept because you're in so much pain, I don't blame you at all. I'll say this because you covered everything pretty beautifully, quite frankly. There's 2 people that I feel really sorry for when it comes to just this game, but it was the biggest game of the season, so I'm going to single it out. I feel really bad for Tarek Skubal, and I feel really bad for Kerry Carpenter. Because Tarek Skubal, it's not just this game. He was obviously brilliant last night, and he got pulled too soon. And I think that's a universal take. It's the fact that in this ALDS, Tarek Skubal showed up and was the Cy Young winner we know him to be, and he's going to be for the second time in a row, twice. 13 innings, 3 earned runs, and the Tigers lost both of his starts. That's tough. And I don't want the legacy of this series to be like, oh, the Tigers were 0-2 in Skubal starts. Some jackholes are going to do that, and I don't want to hear that. And when it comes to Kerry Carpenter, think about this. Kerry Carpenter got on base 6 times, including a 2-run homer. If you told me before the game that Kerry Carpenter would get on base 6 times with including a 2-run home run, and Tarek Skubal would give you 6 innings of 1 earned run, 13 strikeouts, I would have legitimately thought that the Tigers won the game 8-1 or something like that, or 8-2 or 8-3. But as you've mentioned, and I'll mention it too, the heart of the order, Torres through Keith, had one of the worst games you'll ever see from a heart of any order. And I don't want this to be something where it defines all of the young guys, especially Riley Green, but there's no defending last night. It was absolutely, absolutely brutal. One of the hardest games to watch I've ever experienced as a sports fan.
Yeah, I agree, Flannel. And not only did Kerry Carpenter reach base 6 times, he did it from the leadoff spot, setting up that middle of the order, which makes that 0 for 23 stat just even more gut-wrenching.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm looking at this middle of the order, Flannel, and I want to, and I think me and you differ on Riley Green a little bit.
Okay.
But I want to exempt him from this conversation because he is a guy that did hit. He's 24 years old and he had a 120 WRC plus. He hit 36 homers. He had 100 and something RBIs. Yeah, 200 strikeouts. That's tough. But I want to exempt him. I want to exempt him from this conversation because I do think is going to become an even better hitter than he is now. But I want to talk about guys like Spencer Torkelson and even Colt Keith. First off, I'll say this. These guys, and look, I get Spencer Torkelson hit you 30 homers last year, but guys like this just can't be hitting in the middle of your order next year. They can't. Do you think there is a chance in hell that this offseason they go out and upgrade and they almost bring in a guy to be Riley Green's counterpart in that middle of the order? Or do you think they're going to stick with these guys and build from within and stay homegrown?
At this point, I think you have to add at least one guy because I don't think that Green or Torkelson or Keith are guys that should be given up on or traded or not be in this lineup, or in the case of somebody like Colt Keith, at least not be a viable platoon player. Yep. But at the end of the day, I've had to come to Jesus a little bit when it comes to even Riley Green. I know he's exempt from this. He can't be your best player on a World Series team. I fought the good fight for a long time. I lost that fight, and I'm ready to lay down my sword because if you had one more guy, I think it would take a lot of pressure off him. I think it would obviously make the lineup better. Everybody around him have more pressure because Spencer Torkelson, he's not as good as Riley Green, but at least this year he showed something. He gave you a 30 home run season. He set career highs in OPS, average, on base. Obviously had some struggles in the postseason, but he's not somebody that you just want to throw, put out to pasture. Same with Colt Keith. Even Colt Keith, even though I was disappointed in the season that he had, he still, upped his OPS. I think the problem with him is that the season, his rookie year, he actually wasn't unplayable versus lefties, and this year he was, to the point where he was a platoon player at the end of the year. So the point of all that is they need to add someone, and I'm not going to go into quite who yet because it's literally day one of the offseason, but there are names. I would like the Tigers, to at least get someone who could be like a 1A or 1B to Riley Green, preferably somebody who...
Oh, lost Flannel there. Uh-oh. I'm going to send him this link again, guys. Maybe the whole state of Michigan, the Wi-Fi, everything just shutting down after that loss yesterday. There we go. I think we got him again. We good, Flannel? We good?
Yep, I'm good.
All right, sweet. But yeah, I mean, I'm not... Look, I'm going to start these Bregman conversations pretty early on in the offseason. That's a guy I think, because I think third base is a hole in this offense. A guy like Zach McKinstry, just on a playoff roster, he can't be your guy at third base. And I feel like the way they've constructed this roster these past couple of years is your complementary pieces around these young guys, the Carps, the Torques, the Colt Keith, the Riley Green, they like fill these spots with these they want it to be like an unsung hero always. Like they're always looking for, Zach McKinstry to come up with the big hits. They're always looking for, you bring up Jahmai Jones off the bench and everything. I just think on a playoff roster, you have to have a little more talent than that. That's just my opinion. And that, that goes right back to the trade deadline. A trade deadline I was disgusted by, quite frankly, by Scott Harris. Flannel, I want to ask you this. Another spot, a position of need, as we see now, is that center field position, and probably the most disappointing player of the 2025 season in Parker Meadows. What do you think Parker Meadows' future here is in Detroit?
I think he's the one that might not make it with the rest, because he was this season he was either injured or awful. He had a horrific season, a horrific postseason, and it's so disappointing. And I heard you mention it in the beginning. Parker Meadows, basically from August last year through the playoffs, was the Tigers' best player. He was an absolute revelation. And you see when he's on, which that might have been a complete fluke, you see the skill set. You see that he might have, and I know it sounds kind of silly to say now because of the season he just came off of, the deepest bag of skills out of any position player on the team. The problem is that for the vast majority of his time as a Detroit Tiger, he has been not just bad. He has been send this guy to AA bad. Like, look at his numbers besides for that one stretch and last year's playoffs. I don't think he's going to make it with this team. And I was rooting for him, but it's not like Riley Green or Torque or Carpenter or Keith where you have some frustrations about their game, but at least they had relatively good seasons. Parker Meadows, it was one of the worst everyday players in the sport this year.
Flannel, he was my breakout candidate. I think he was everybody's breakout candidate for
100%.
2025. If he was, the injury in the beginning of the year obviously kind of halted that, but I mean, that was a big sample size he had this year. Yeah, he was hurt for, a good part of the season, but he had enough at bats to kind of say, hey, I could be a player that I could be the center fielder of the future. I want to be the reason that we have to move a guy like Max Clark to, left field or something. Like he just didn't do it. And he's a fantastic defensive center fielder. But even like down the stretch in this playoffs, Flannel, where was he throwing that baseball yesterday?
Yeah.
In the 15th, where was that ball going? Like, you can't make mistakes like that in the playoffs. So, I mean, very disappointing that Parker Meadows kind of turned out the way he did, because like you said, down the stretch in the playoffs and during that crazy run we had last year, he was probably the best player on the team. Flannel, I do want to ask you about, because I see a lot of opinions and a lot of it is from, burner accounts and all this stuff who kind of just say whatever. AJ Hinch. Obviously, there was a couple moves that he made this postseason that were questionable. Yesterday, the one pulling Tarik Skubal too early. Another one was pinch hitting for Riley Green in the Guardians series. Another one was putting Troy Melton out in the Guardians series in that big spot. A lot of people are not happy with AJ Hinch. I'm personally an AJ Hinch guy. Kind of what are your thoughts on AJ Hinch and the way he managed this postseason?
He made some mistakes, and I'll be the first to admit I think AJ Hinch is a good manager, but I also think there's a segment of fans, and I'm not saying you, and I think it's dwindling after this postseason, by the way, who are just kind of blind AJ defenders no matter what he does. I always had the joke that, would this Tigers team be the Colorado Rockies without Hinch, or worse than the Rockies? Because I think people have a bit of a overinflated sort of premise of what managers actually do. But he is a good manager, but yesterday was obviously inexcusable and I don't think defensible in any way. This is game 5 of the ALDS. It's do or die. You can't manage it like a regular season game. The whole Green for Jones thing, Riley Green's my favorite player. I'm a self-admitted Riley Green simp, but at least you can say that was somewhat defensible because Jahmai Jones was objectively phenomenal against lefties this year. he in a lot of ways saved our regular season. So you can defend that. The Melton, I mean, I don't think Hinch had his best postseason, but I still think he's a good manager and should be kept around for, many more years to come, because you're not going to get very many people better, especially on the open market.
Yeah, I'm a Hinch guy through and through. I obviously, like we kind of saw yesterday in a couple spots in this postseason. One thing I hate, Flannel, is and I think we see it with a guy like Scott Harris. I think we see it sometimes in a guy like Brad Holmes, the smartest guy in the room syndrome, and I think we see that a little bit in AJ, where he just thinks everybody else's opinion doesn't matter. I run this ball club. This is what I want to do, and this is what I think is the right thing. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. He's a very analytically forward manager. Which hurts you sometimes, and sometimes it helps you. But yeah, I mean, yesterday, pulling Skubal at 99 pitches, if you're not going to use him, if you're not going to, let him go the limit in an elimination game in game 5, then when are you going to? Like, did we have to wait to the World Series to see Skubal go 120 pitches? And I want to say this too. There were some people in the chat during our watch party that were because there was a Skubal Verlander debate in the chat, and there were people faulting Tarek Skubal, saying that, oh, he can never do what Verlander did, go out and throw 140 pitches, whatever. You don't think Tarek Skubal was begging AJ Hinch to go back in that game? Like, those conversations were ridiculous yesterday. But let's talk about Skubal for a sec, Flannel, because kind of a throwback here. My introduction to kind of, the podcasting, radio, everything at Woodward Sports on the heavyweights was, the first big debate was trading Tarek Skubal 2 years ago. Or I guess that was last season. I was fully against it. I didn't care what the Orioles were going to offer us. I didn't care what, the Yankees, any of these teams were going to offer us. Right now, Flannel, I don't know where I stand on it, because now you only have one more year of control. And if your owner's not going to go out and make some serious moves to improve this offense and just the team as a whole, you're going to waste Skubal. You're just going to. So, and I mean, you got to pay him. And I don't know if Illich has the nuts to do that. Do you think, a pretty broad question here, Flannel, I apologize, but do you think Tarek Skubal is a Detroit Tiger past the 2026 season?
I do not. And I think there's a myriad of reasons. Number one, and this is just from the do I want to trade him or do I not perspective. Do you really trust this front office and the ownership to put together a World Series caliber roster for next year? I don't think you can say yes. And you have to look at this past season as a failure because of the way that they closed the season. They blew the division. They lost in the exact same spot that they were the year before. I didn't see a ton of tangible progress with the team. You saw it from certain players, but with the team, they're at the exact same spot, and it was a failure of a season. Who's to say that the Tigers aren't at this exact same spot next year, and Tarek Skubal's tenure, even if he is a 3-time Cy Young winner back to back, which we don't know yet, but we'll just do this hypothetical, and they don't win anything, it's still kind of, I wouldn't say completely all for naught, but in a way, all for naught. It may actually be beneficial considering trading Skubal this offseason. I can't believe I'm saying that. It's just, man, the way my emotions are still a little bit raw, but the way that this season ended, it's like the only way that this is a success is if they win a World Series during dominant Skubal stretch. And I just don't think the Tigers have it in them next year. I gotta see it to believe it. And so far, if you come back and you don't make impact moves and, Riley Green's still your best offensive player, and there's still injuries and question marks about the bullpen and who's starting pitcher 2 will too many questions. I'm going to say he won't be on the team in 2020 past 2026.
And look, I think, man, it hurts to say because Tarek Skubal, probably outside of Cade Cunningham, is my favorite athlete ever. And it pains me to say, Flannel, but I think you're correct. And I think, man, I just don't see Chris Illich putting a check in front of Skubal. I don't. And yeah, I mean, these conversations and the conversations are going to get brought up a lot more as the season goes on next year with Scott Boras. I mean, he's a tough cookie, dude. I
Yeah.
mean, he doesn't budge. He knows what Scooble's worth. And I don't know if Chris Ilitch is going to pay pay Scooble what he deserves. Tough. But looking forward to the offseason, Flannel, what in specific is it a power hitting righty? Is it a hard throwing reliever? Is it just a player that's going to control the strike zone and get on base for you? What's your number one need for this Tigers team in this offseason?
Man, there's a few. Number one, and like I said, maybe I'm a little bit raw because of the way that this game played out.
Yeah.
I'm a big on base and OPS guy. And I know that there's a lot of big name, and I know a lot of people are, but me especially. You can ask anybody at Woodward. I would annoy people with like, yeah, but this guy gets on base. I'm like, Billy Beane and Peter Brand from a Moneyball. But I think that that's the most important, at least talking to me right now. I think you need to add in the starting rotation and the bullpen as well. I think those are also question marks in a way, but one of the most disappointing things, and this is where I'll circle back to Riley Green, because I defend him with my life a lot. The one thing I can't defend, I was very disappointed with his low walk rate this year. That's something that he showed last year. He was your best on base guy last year. And this year,
in the beginning of the year, he had more last year in the beginning of the year, he had more walks and strikeouts for like a half a month or something.
Yeah. And that's what's tough. And you also, and think about this, you had a high on base guy, Gleyber Torres, that you're probably going to lose. So when you keep that in mind, when you think about Gleyber Torres is probably going to be the piece that is most important that you're going to lose in the offseason, I would like a high on base or OPS guy. I'd prefer it to be, like a Bregman-like name. But if you're going to play some money ball, look at those things. Look at undervalued players who maybe have a higher, who at least get on base. We'll see what they do. They actually, I think, hit, I wouldn't say out of the park because of the way his second half went, but I think Gleyber Torres ended up being a good move. If they can do something like that, cool. I'd obviously like better and more, but an on base or OPS guy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think even though they played well down the stretch, this pitching, especially yesterday, I mean, outside of, Canley, Finnegan, and Holton, the other four pitchers that threw were phenomenal last night. I still do think, a hard throwing swing and miss reliever is up there for me. But I mean, after the way the offense just performed, it's hard not to say just some guy that's going to be productive in this lineup. We'll talk some positives here, Flannel.
Yeah.
I see someone in the chat, Salty Pork Chops, Troy Melton. I mean, he's been great. And I think he was, down the stretch, kind of a surprise to a lot of Tigers fans, threw really well in the minors, brought him up and, started a few games and was really successful. Do you see Troy Melton as a guy, especially with, the fifth starting spot kind of being a question mark with the Job injury and everything? Do you think Troy Melton has a future here in Detroit, being in the starting rotation?
100%. I think that could be potentially imperative for what the Tigers do next year. You saw down the stretch, and especially even last night, his stuff is absolutely filthy. I love the way, and I get it. It's not all based on last night, but I think Troy Melton deserves some flowers for last night. In the bottom of the 10th, gives up that leadoff double and pitches out of it. Clutch pitching, really in the 11th is lights out. He's got just filthy stuff. You talk about swing and miss. You talk about just nasty. You talk about somebody who you can look at as a positive from this season. You really can't slander Troy Melton in the slightest. Absolutely. He's got to be a big part of this team moving forward. No question about it. Whether it's in the starting rotation or the bullpen, I'd probably prefer the starting rotation.
I agree. And look, I thought that kind of halfway through Melton's tenure here down the stretch, I didn't like, and I get we were short on starters, short on pitching in general. I didn't like that Hinch was using them as that sort of Swiss Army knife type pitcher, similar to what he did with Tyler Holton last year. Obviously, Holton was very successful in that spot, but I want to see Holton go 5 or 6, 7 innings strong. And, you know, I think he has the ability to do that. And I think next year, we see it in the chat. I think he could be our number 2 guy next year. Obviously, Joe won't be there, and Flaherty will most likely pick up his player option. Last question here, Flannel. Well, I got 2 more for you. I'll start with this one. Javi Baez, great postseason. This is a guy that, including me, a lot of the fan base wrote off because he was he was fucking horrible for basically his entire tenure here in Detroit. Made an all-star team last year. Was it a little fluky of an all-star? Nod, sure. But played well in the postseason. Do you think Javi Baez, and even with, the chance McGonigal comes up, do you think there's a chance that Javi Baez is the starting shortstop for the Detroit Tigers next year?
First off, before I answer that, let me just correct myself. Milton only went 1 inning last night. For some reason, I said he pitched 2. My bad. As far as
15 innings, everything was kind
of right. Yeah. As far as Javi Baez goes, I have a different opinion of Javi Baez than I think a lot of the Tigers fan base. You can say that he had an excellent postseason, which he did. I don't think it makes up for his tenure on the Tigers. He's never had a season where he's had an OPS over 700. It was a very fluky all-star start. The fact that he started the all-star game over guys like Byron Buxton and George Springer, and I said it at the time, I thought it was a disgrace. People didn't want to hear it because, I was going against my own guy, and obviously the Javi Baez has turned into a very beloved figure in Detroit sports, which I don't quite understand. But as far as being a starter coming into next year, do I think he will be? Yes, I do. Did he have his best season as a Tiger this year? Yes. Was it good overall? No. Did he show some flashes? Sure. The only thing he brings is veteran leadership. That's really the only thing he brings. So does that mean you think they turn McGonigal into a third baseman, corner infielder? Because I think McGonigal's on the opening day roster next year. Oh man, there's going to be some turnover because you have to wonder what they're going to do with McKinstry, what they're going to do with Meadows. I think there will be a spot for Javi to at least start this season, for example. They might play him like they did this season because people forget Javi Baez got a lot of days off. He was never hurt, but I believe he only played 126 games. Maybe depending on how he starts the season, depending on how the young guys come up, what they do in the offseason, I think Javi Baez will be an opening day starter next year. But does that mean he's going to be the everyday player for the whole year? I can't say that yet. I personally hope not. I think they can do better as a full season player. Yeah. This postseason be damned. It was phenomenal and whatnot. Does not make up for his tenure as a Tiger. It's been a complete failure.
No, I agree. And I'll say this. Like I said, I think the only thing he really brings you is veteran leadership, because I do think he's a good leader for these young guys. But as an everyday player, as a player that he's not a guy that's going to be productive for 150 games for a playoff team. So I agree. But it's brutal loss yesterday. Flannel, big game for Michigan today. Personally, I am not a Wolverines fan, nor am I a Spartans fan. Which is kind of odd being from Michigan, just never kind of chose a side. But big game for Michigan today at USC. What are your expectations for the Wolverines today at 7:30?
My expectations are that they win a very close, high-scoring game. The one thing that I'm worried about when it comes to Michigan, and I think most Michigan fans in here would agree, the weakness of Michigan's defense right now in terms of personnel, I would say, is their secondary. And the USC passing attack led by Jaden Maeva and Malachi Lemon has been lethal. Not always against the best competition, but I think they're a genuinely good passing attack. They run the ball well. I don't think Michigan is going to hold USC to 21 or 24 or anything, but I don't really like USC's defense either. We saw Bryce Underwood in the second half of the Wisconsin game, albeit against Wisconsin, but still, as a true freshman, the way he performed in the second half was impressive. The way he was able to get Donovan McCulley to have his breakout game and Andrew Marsh to have his breakout game was impressive. We know what Justice Haynes has done. He's been one of the best, if not the best, running back in college football this year. It's going to be an offensive game. It's going to be a lot of explosives. I think at the end of the day, Michigan wins 35-31.
I like it. I like it. They come in as a 2.5 point underdog.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that, by the way. That's tough traveling to the West Coast.
Exactly. USC is – I mean, Vegas is going to side with the home team there, I think, in this spot. Chiefs-Lions tomorrow, Flannel. And, look, I feel like people – do people rip on you because you like Mahomes? Because I don't understand.
Do people rip on me? Yes.
I don't understand that because Mahomes is – I'm a fan of Mahomes. I am, personally. And, I mean, he's incredible. Lions go in tomorrow, I believe it's 2.5 point underdogs, which is understanding. Chiefs coming off a loss, and it looks like the Lions might be without Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Terrion Arnold already ruled out. What do you make of that game tomorrow? Sunday night, prime time, very exciting game. It's dare I say, a kind of a must-win game for the Chiefs. And, this is a good test for the Lions tomorrow. What do you make of that matchup?
Well, I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, but I think if the Chiefs are truly the Chiefs and not a declining dynasty, that this is a spot where they win this game. And it's going to have nothing to do with how I feel about the Lions. I think they're the best team in the NFL right now. I think if they lose a close game at Arrowhead, they're still the best team in the NFL. But when you look at the Chiefs, you wonder, like I said, if they're actually the Chiefs or if they're declining, because they've done a lot of non-Chiefs things this year. I mean, the list could go on and on. Like, first of all, they're 0-3 in one-score games, which is unfathomable for the Chiefs. You see how well they've executed in clutch moments and down the stretch of games, especially in the Super Bowls that they've won during their dynasty. Chris Jones has been struggling. Nick Bolton has the highest missed tackle rate of his career. Travis Kelce is obviously declining. Rashee Rice is still suspended. You look at Patrick Mahomes, he actually leads the team in rushing.
Yeah.
Those are things that, all of those things, if you're a Chiefs fan, you don't like to hear or you don't like to see. And Rashee Rice is still not going to be there. I think their backs are up against the wall. They're 2-3. They're at home. They're at night. Going to 2-4 might be a kiss of death on their season. Not 100%, but that would be a really, really tough hole for them to come out of. And the Lions, they've got their injury report, especially in the secondary. At best, it's bad with both of their starting corners. At worst, it could be catastrophic because you see Avonte Maddox, Brian Branch, and Kirby Joseph on the injury report now. So I think this is a spot where the Chiefs do beat the Lions, but I still think the Lions are on a fast track to being 12-5, 13-4, and getting the 1 seed. It's the NFL. Spot games happen. I think the Chiefs get this one. I hope I'm wrong. I see it going the Chiefs' way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do this often because it's just tough for me to make a prediction like this. But Flannel, I do think you're right. I look, with all the injuries in the secondary, and no matter, people could say whatever they want about this Chiefs offense, they could still be explosive. It's still Patrick Mahomes, and when you're out, if they're going to be out, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, obviously they're out, Terrion Arnold, DJ Reed. That's your whole fucking secondary. Yeah. So I mean, that's pretty tough to win ball games when you have, I mean, basically your whole secondary out. Last question here, Flannel, in the chat. We got from Francesco Rufino, shout out. Obviously, we're coming up on the heart of flannel season, but what does Flannel Sam wear in the summer?
Well, in this past season, this is baseball season in summer, I had to wear a Riley Green jersey every day. Unfortunately, the reason I'm wearing a flannel now is because the Tigers were knocked out of the playoffs. I'm sure you heard that story, Caleb. I'm sure people in the chat have heard it as well. As far as, I've got some short sleeve flannels. As far as on the shows, I had to invest in some short sleeve flannels for the summer because it can get pretty brutal. Yes. As you know, I'm assuming that you kind of run hot. I prefer the cold.
I run hot.
Yeah. So summers can just be brutal, but I got some reinforcements.
Well, Flannel, it was a pleasure. And, I'm hopefully we can make this a regular thing with Flannel Sam on the show. Hey, man, enjoy your Saturday. This was a quick turnaround for all of us, so maybe go take a nap, get some sleep before this Michigan game. Flannel, we appreciate you. Thank you for hopping on, man.
Thank you for having me. Continue to keep up doing the great work. Go Lions, go Michigan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is Flannel Sam. He's the man. Look, when you need an opinion on really anything, you could go to Flannel Sam. I mean, I'll say this real quick when it comes to the Tigers. Flannel said it a couple times. It's still raw, kind of. Everything that happened. It's hard for me to even look back at that game yesterday and I don't even want to say like have discussion about it because I mean we just did, but that was such a brutal way to end your season. And I mean talking about it with someone that I know knows baseball, was good. So shout out Flannel Sam. I will say this. He's going, we're going to make sure he's a regular on the Saturday morning show. And, he's on during the week quite a bit. Make sure to tune in that 10 to 8 Monday through Saturday. Let's see what the chat has to say, whether it's Lions, Tigers. And guys, if you want to talk some Pistons to end the show, we can, because they just started the preseason. And let me say this, Cade Cunningham looks phenomenal. I look, if I see one person in the chat say it's preseason, it doesn't matter. Stop it, because he's still playing against NBA guys, and he just dropped 26, 6 and 6 in 19 minutes. In the game before that, he had 23 and 4 in 19 minutes on like 8 for 10 shooting. That guy's ridiculous. So we could talk some Tigers here, some Lions. Let's see what we got here. Yes, no, China virus. That I think that is what Flannel meant. The fatties run hot, and look, I'm not going to blame him for saying that because that's true. I'm wearing a sweater right now, a Carhartt sweater right now. And you could bet your bottom dollar I'm taking this thing off right when the show ends. I'm probably just running T-shirt all day, even though it's cold outside. Greg, Lions have injuries in key positions. Yeah, I mean, that is very true. Simo, Tigers, Wings, Lions, and Michigan lose. Man, I didn't even think about that. I thought Philadelphia had a bad sports day on Friday with the Philly, or what was that, Thursday? With the Phillies loss and the Eagles loss. Man, this could be one brutal weekend for Detroit. Obviously, Tigers lose. Wings, I think their home opener is today. Let's see who they're playing. Let's see. Yep, they're playing the Leaves at home today. So let's see how that goes after that terrible game one they had. Lions, Kansas City, like I said, I mean, I just don't see how the Lions can win this game with all those injuries in the secondary against a guy like Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs coming off a loss. And the Michigan, who is playing USC on the road. That could be one brutal weekend for Detroit. Shout out to Xavier D in the chat. Let's fucking go Lions. Yeah, I mean, it's Lions and Pistons now. It's Lions and Pistons now. And the Wings. And the Wings. Look, we'll have Gentry back on next week. We'll have Gentry back on, but yeah, Francesco Ruffino. Francesco, I'm just going to call you Frank. This is one of my boys, Francesco Ruffino. If Texas loses today, will it count as 2 losses for your college football record? I did tell him the other day, it was yesterday, that the Texas Longhorns are going to be on my card today. I just love them in this spot this week. I think they're like a 1.5 point underdog. Or no, 1.5 point favorite at home. They will be on my college football card. Will it count as 2 losses? Yeah, I think betting on a guy like Arch Manning, that should count as 2 losses against your record, because it takes a lot of balls to do it. Steve-O baby, Caleb, real tears were coming down my eyes watching the Tigers game in rage. I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you. That was a emotional roller coaster. I'll tell you what, and I'm hopefully this helps you guys as well. Tuning into this show, talking about it helps. It definitely helps, because if I were just sitting on my couch this morning and just thinking about everything that happened in that Tigers game, I think I would lose my mind. I'm still losing my mind right now. I still can't believe that happened. 15 fucking innings, 0 for 23 out of your 2 through 5 guys, 10 strikeouts. You pull Skubal after 99 pitches. Ridiculous managing from AJ Hinch in that spot. I can't believe we lost that game. We had every opportunity to win it. Every opportunity to win that game. We should be playing tomorrow for the ALCS in game 1. Let me say this. Speaking of the ALCS, congratulations. And Chris Castellani tweeted this out. I don't want to steal it from him, but it's said perfectly. Congratulations to the Toronto Blue Jays for winning game 1 of the ALCS, because who the fuck is Seattle going to pitch? Who are they going to pitch? They used Castillo yesterday. They used Gilbert. Unless Brian Wu is ready to go for game 1, who's pitching? Who is pitching for the Mariners? And the Tigers would they have gone Mize in game 1? He only went 3 innings a day ago, but they used Flaherty. They used half their bullpen. So if they wanted to go bullpen game, they'd be coming on, pitching on short rest. But that's all hypothetical stuff because the Tigers lost because they can't hit with runners in scoring position. And for some reason, our manager decided to pull Tarik Skubal after 99 pitches. So I don't know. Dilemma in the chat. Shout out Pistons. Be good. Don't worry about them. I think they're going to be good too. I think they're going to be a top 4 seed in the East and a wide open Eastern Conference. And I made a video about this. Cade Cunningham is going to be in some serious MVP talks this year, especially with the success I believe the Pistons will have. They're going to be right in the mix for one of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and all eyes are going to be on Detroit. They're a fun, young team. I think they made good moves in the offseason, adding good pieces and guys like Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson. If they bring Malik Beasley back, I think they're going to have a phenomenal season. I think they're going to get a big jump out of Jalen Duren. I think he hasn't even tapped his potential yet at 22 years old or whatever he is, 21 years old. So year 4 Jalen Duren is going to be fun. But yeah, I do agree. Pistons will be good. If they aren't, I'm going to lose my mind. Mark says, hopefully Mariners win the World Series. I like this Mariners team. They have a lot of really good players, and they were a team that made moves at this trade deadline. And you know what? So did Toronto. You see these two teams playing in the ALCS. They are teams that made moves at the trade deadline to make their team better. There was a point where Toronto was talking about selling off their pieces, but nope, they turned it around and added a few pieces. Seattle obviously added Josh Naylor in the offseason. They added Eugenio Suarez at the trade deadline. They did what they could to get better, and they're being rewarded for it. They're playing in the ALCS. So good for them. I like that team. I like the Mariners team. Mark again, love Hinch, but he made more than a few bad decisions that cost us a W. Yesterday, I don't know if there was more than a few, but because the Skubal one was bad, but there were just in the playoffs in totality. There were a few moves that he made that were head scratching to say the least, but I am a Hinch guy. But I don't know. Mark again, shout out. And what the hell was up with the Tigers bats late? The one hit by Baez, the bat completely shattered in a crucial moment. There were more broken bats in that game than I've ever seen ever. There was probably 10 broken bats in that game. Like, crazy. Yeah. Sauce, Mark says. Chesko again. What would you consider a good season for Jaden Ivey? A good season for Jaden Ivey is, playing 70 plus games and I think the ability to mesh with Cade, I think, is going to be the biggest thing because he's coming up on a contract year, and Cade Cunningham you already paid. And if you're Jaden Ivey and you can't prove you can't be the counterpart in the backcourt to Cade Cunningham, there's really no room for you on this team. Some specific things I want to see him improve on. I want to see him improve on the defensive end. And I want to see him more in control in the fast break because he is and can be an explosive player on the fast break. But there's a lot of times that he just gets to, for the lack of a better term, a little gloosy-goosey with the basketball running the fast break. So just seeing him improve on that stuff and continue to shoot the 3-ball well. That is something that he's done well. Before he got hurt last year, he was shooting around 40% from 3 before he got hurt. If you want to talk numbers, you can give me 18 points a game and, 5 assists and then, shoot 38% from 3. So I'm excited for Ivy this year. But again, big year for him because this contract year is coming up. And when you have a guy like Cade Cunningham, you need to make sure you have the correct pieces around him. And if Ivy's not one of those guys, he might be he might be, not be a part of the Pistons' future. I see a lot of people talking about Meadows. Yeah. We talked about Meadows quite a bit this morning. Meadows is a batting nightmare. He is. And I want to say this lightly, but I really can't. He's a fucking disaster at the plate. Me and Flannel just talked about it. He is. Center field's a position of need now. I just don't think Parker Meadows has a spot on this team. I just don't. He's a phenomenal center fielder. Like, obviously he made that boneheaded play yesterday. Where the fuck was he throwing that baseball in that 15th inning? But outside of that, I mean, he's a good defensive center fielder. You're right. Meadows, he's a disaster. He's a disaster. China virus, the scouting report against the Tigers can't hit sliders. Yeah, but they also can't hit fastballs. So, I mean, they really can't hit. Honestly, they can't hit sliders, fastballs, spitballs, splitters. They really just can't hit, kind of in general. So, I think the scouting report is just, throw the ball in the zone and you're going to get some swing and misses. He also says Dodgers win the World Series. Yeah, I mean, they got extremely lucky the other night against the Phillies. Why that ball? If anybody tuned into that Phillies-Dodgers game, that 11-inning game, that was crazy. That is gut-wrenching. That is, I mean, Phillies fans and Tigers fans should have like a therapy session together because that is tough. Bulls turn, shout out. Carp, Javi, and Scooble have the it factor. The rest do not, especially Green and Torque. Meadows is a minor leaguer at best. Z-Mac, Colton, Wenzel are not starters. Couple things I could agree with here. Carp and Scooble, I think they have the it factor. Javi, I mean, are we just talking October baseball? Just that? Because Javi Baez has been pretty terrible these past couple years. But does Riley Green have the it factor? It's a good question. Torque, I don't think does. Torque can't be hitting in the middle of your order. He just can't. I mean, some of these at-bats are pretty abysmal. Riley Green, that's a tough one. It factor. That's an interesting way to put it. Meadows is a minor leaguer at best. Agreed. Z-Mac, Colt, and Wenzel are not starters. I do want to wait on... Man, I say I want to wait on these guys, but then I'll bitch at Scott Harris if he doesn't find someone to replace him. I think Colt could be a good hitter, man. I do. And I think Wenzel can as well. I mean, Wenzel went through a really bad stretch this year heading into the playoffs. And in the playoffs, one of the worst hitters in all of baseball. But I think there's something in Wenzel. Maybe not a starter, but I do think guys like Colt and Wenzel can come off the bench for this team. I think you're correct. But obviously you want more out of a guy like Colt Keith because we did just extend him for, 7 or 6 years or whatever it was. Mark says, I want Torres to come back. I don't think he will. Especially with guys like Kevin McGonigal coming up in the organization. There's a lot of prospects that are excited about how you Lee, Max Anderson. These guys are going to kind of, I think, fill the infield spots for next year. And then, hopefully, maybe, I think this is what we all want for Chris Ilitch and Scott Harris to go make some moves this offseason to, bolster that lineup. And I think that kind of makes Gleyber Torres one of the odd men out in this lineup. Jimmy Bach, that's 100% correct. Parker Meadows didn't make a good swing in either series. He didn't. It looks like when he's swinging, he swings with the hole in his bat. I mean, we want to talk about Riley Green having an uppercut swing. Parker Meadows' swing needs some serious changes. And I am no hitting coach, but I think it's pretty obvious when you watch this guy swing. Man, there are some real fucking issues there. There are some real issues. There are some real issues there, and it's brutal. Greg, Tigers need a center fielder and a third baseman. Agreed. And I think they need a couple relievers, and I think they need a starter. So Scott Harris has a long offseason ahead of us. As fans, we are going to have one hell of an offseason. It's going to be long. It's going to be brutal. But hopefully, we leave this offseason with some better players. I'll get to a couple more of these chats real quick before we head out for the morning. You get shout out Detroit Dabber, you get maybe 20 more pitches out of Scooble if you leave him in. Pulling him didn't lose the game. The inability to hit did. Agreed. However, those 20 pitches get you through the 7th inning. After the 7th inning, you're probably getting 2 good innings out of Will Vest. So, I mean, you got to think once they took Tarek Scooble out, Finnegan got in a jam. They took Finnegan out, and then Holton gave up the run. That's a tie ball game. You pitch Scooble that 7th. You probably leave that frame scoreless. Then you go Vest for the 8th and the 9th. Or you can go Finnegan for that 8th. So Vest only has to pitch the 9th. Yeah, those 20 pitches could have gone a long way. And honestly, those 20 pitches could have saved the Tiger season. I'm sorry. I mean, you could disagree with that, but that's kind of just the way I'm thinking. Shout out Mark again. Hurts my heart. Scooble is probably gone. They better get a haul that instantly improves their team. Like Flannel Sam said, I think there is quite a possibility that there's going to be a lot of Tarek Skubal trade talks this offseason, especially if Illich and Scott Harris aren't committed to continue to build a World Series caliber roster. There's no point of having Tarek Skubal on your team just to pitch once every 5 days, dominate, win you one game every week, and then if everything else isn't going to amount to anything. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in. And shout out Flannel Sam for joining again. Like I said, he's going to become a regular on this program. I wish I could keep going. I just have some stuff to do today. I mean, this is going to be a long off season. But I mean, look, what a brutal loss, man. What a brutal loss. So, make sure to tune in tomorrow. Chiefs, Lions, we will be doing a watch party and a pregame and a postgame show. So make sure to tune into that. Make sure to subscribe. Follow us on all of our socials. Follow me on my socials at Caleb Czarnik on Twitter. And yeah, man, I hope everybody has a great weekend. And I hope you're going to recover from this loss one way or another. Yeah, everybody be safe. Have a good weekend. Thank you for tuning in.